She's got a full license anyway, but yeah, I'm ready for ages.
Yeah.
I used to do trials.
Kids on little off-road bikes that are either on nicked off-road bikes or just causing a nuisance.
So trespassing, nuisance, noise, nuisance, stuff like that, which is important, but we need to stop people.
Hi, I'm Phil Walker. I'm a sergeant with the Collision Investigation Unit at Lancashire Police.
Hiya, I'm Finn. How you doing? So, we've come speaking about motorcycle safety and trying to prevent people from getting killed and seriously injured on the roads.
We've had a bit of an increase, haven't we, lately, in crashes. Why do you reckon that is?
I'm not sure. It's been a lot with lockdown, hasn't there? People coming out of lockdown and starting to use bikes. I think over lockdown, quite a lot of people moved onto motorcycles. I don't know why. Left the cars behind. But
traffic was lighter, I suppose, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And maybe just to get out and about and that freedom, because there was a point, wasn't there, in lockdown where you were allowed to sort of go out and exercise, or allowed to be on your own, and I think people used bikes then to get a bit of freedom and just to get out of it.
Yeah, because it was a bit of almost like a loophole, wasn't it? You say you couldn't mix with other people, so when you're on your bike, you're on your own, and the exercise could be anywhere you wanted, and people just used the bike as an excuse to go for exercise anywhere they wanted.
Which is great, absolutely. I mean, we're all bikers, and that's what we want. We understand that people want to get out, use their bikes, enjoy themselves, but we just want them to have a great time and come back safe to their families, and that's what it's all about, really. But unfortunately, like you said, there's been a massive spike in the number of people that have been killed and seriously injured on the roads. Yeah,
because the crashes we can pretty much break down into a couple of categories, can't we? One where the single vehicle, the motorcyclist on his own, comes off on the road and gets seriously injured or killed, or they're involved in a collision with another vehicle and the motorcyclist has done something that they perhaps shouldn't have been doing. And then you've got the collision with another vehicle and the motorcyclist has done nothing to contribute towards that collision.
Yeah. Like statistically, they're saying out there a third of motorcycle collisions are single bikes. So, like you say, that's us getting it wrong, not making it round a corner, losing the front end, back end on a right-hand corner, drifting wide on a corner and going into the hedge, something like that. Yeah. So 2/3 are involving other vehicles. Yeah. And like you said, it's not always the biker's fault, and it's not always the other vehicle's fault. There's a mix in there of them too.
Yeah, because it's strange, really, because as the police, we're not really interested in fault. We always just look at what was the standard of driving that was exhibited by one or both parties. It's always down to your insurance company to sort out whose fault it was. But what we have seen, and what happens a lot, is that although it's not your fault, you can mitigate a lot of the risks that you're putting yourself in by just being a little bit more aware of your surroundings and the potential hazards, especially at junctions, things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're anticipating something happening, you've got that extra half a second or a second in which you can then process the information. You can get on the brakes a bit sooner, take your speed right off, and yeah, cars might pull out at you and you can shout at them and call them silly names for doing so, but you go home to your family at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's no good just relying on everybody else to play by the rules.
No, like you said before, I think it's not important whether you're right or not. It's better to be wrong, but not dead.
Yeah.
You know? If the other person's doing the right thing, then that's
you
know.
You can start taking a bit of control about your own destiny, for sounding a bit corny, but it's right. If you go in and you see something that could develop into some hazard, and you just think, I don't like the look of that, I'm just going to roll off a bit of speed as I'm approaching it. Once you're happy with it, you've gone through the hazard and you're off on your way again. Yeah. It takes probably has about 5 seconds onto your journey time, which is nothing.
That's nothing. As long as you have
soon make that up again.
Absolutely. I mean, the trouble is that we don't want to put people off, because that's the last thing we want to do. The most important thing is you go out and use bikes. We all love bikes. We're passionate about them, but the trouble is the statistics for bike collisions are really terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, they reckon that of all the motorcycles in the whole of the UK only account for 1% of all the vehicles that are on the road. And break that down even further, it only accounts for 0.5% of the miles travelled. So we're hardly feature on the road at all. Having said that, motorcyclists count for 23% of the people that are killed on the road. So there's that massive disparity between the number of bikes and how much we're using them, and the fact that the people are getting killed and seriously injured. And that's what we've got to break down. And the only way to break that down is via training, really.
Well, wait for big tractor.
Big tractor go fast. So, oh, he's going to make noise. So nationally, the Department for Transport have done some stats, and they say that on average in Lancashire, well, no, in the UK, it's 63 times more likely for you to be killed on a motorcycle. And unfortunately in Lancashire it's even worse, it's raised to 73. So 73 times more likely than a car user to be killed on the road, which is horrendous, absolutely horrendous stat. And the only way to bring that down, personally, is by training.
Yeah, well, we've got the fatal five, haven't we? We've got speed, careless driving, use of mobile phones,
drink and drugs,
and I forgot, what was that, 5?
Seatbelts,
yeah.
Absolutely. Just don't have seatbelts on bikes.
We don't.
Is that why you forgot it?
Yeah, that's why I forgot.
But there's certainly 3 of them, aren't they? The careless driving, the drink and drugs, and the speed. They're the big 3 for motorcycle fatalities.
In collisions, I think too high a statistic to even qualify it, but elements of bad driving is always the cause of a collision. People pulling out at junctions when they shouldn't because they're not looking and paying attention, which is the careless driving, you know. People going too fast on the approach to hazards, that's down to driver attitude and behaviour and risk assessments. And collisions will invariably occur. It's human nature, there will be collisions all the time. But if it's like people always have a pop at like speed camera vans, and they go, oh, they're just revenue generations, this, that, so they don't stop accidents. You're right, they're not there to stop accidents.
No.
If you can take the speed out of any collision, the level of injuries drops off dramatically.
Yeah.
You have a collision at 30 mile an hour, invariably you're going to survive, and there's going to be, you'll have injuries, but you're not going to...
It won't be life-threatening, life-changing, will they?
You have the same impact at 40 mile an hour. The risks of serious injury and fatality goes up massively. Yeah. So just that 10 mile an hour in a built-up area can make a huge difference to whether somebody goes home or not.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think it's a lot about just trying to convince people about attitude towards driving, which then comes from training. The skill levels of riders, we do Bike Safe, and I'd recommend Bike Safe to anyone because it gives you more tools in your arsenal. It tells you what to be looking for, what to look out for, and by having better awareness and better planning and things, your riding levels and skills will increase, which can make you sometimes ride faster on national speed limit roads because you're riding appropriate to the conditions and the hazards that are presented.
We can always come back to that. It's always going to be training. Yeah. Every time. And that is the only way to reduce your risk. So absolutely. So whether that's something like Bike Safe, bikesafe.co.uk, have a look on there. A one-day course nationally. We don't mind where you go, as long as you go on one. Have a see, and it's a good idea because it's a tester, something for you to have a see. We'll go through things like hazard perception, overtaking junctions, things like that. Taking corners, correctly. All stuff like that. How many times do you ride your bike and you're seeing motorcyclists coming in, they're cutting the corners because they're going, it's the racing line, that's the fastest route round it. And yeah, it can be the fastest route round it, but if something's coming the other way, you can't do anything about it. Yeah. You can't change your line midway around a bend and then get round the bend. Yeah. But we did that initiative, didn't we? In 2015, we did the Right Track initiative, and that's exactly what that's like. Yeah. That's exactly what it's about. a good rider who's out on a road, and we haven't sort of mentioned that, what sorts of roads are we? They're generally national speed limit roads or the faster roads, just because, as you said before, speed, the faster speed you're going, the more likely you're going to get, you've got less time to react, and so you're going to get, if you do have a collision, it's going to be a worse injury. But that's a perfect example, the Right Track Initiative, because that is a chap that's not doing anything wrong, he's not speeding, he's not drunk, he's not on drugs, his bike's in good condition, but he's literally just gone round a left-hand bend, and instead of being towards the centre line, which gives you the best view round the corner, he was hugging the near side of the lane, and there was bushes on the near side, and so his view is very obstructed, and as soon as he pops around the corner, unfortunately there's a vehicle waiting to turn, leaves him nowhere to go. So it's just that couple of feet to the, to the offside, towards the centre of the line, gives you that much better look round the corner.
That second, that time
to react.
So that gives you your reaction time, which means whatever you can see, that's the space you've got in which to either steer around the hazard, apply your brakes, and avoid it, and or mitigate the risk, and just scrub off as much speed as you can. And it's little things, but we're very fortunate that the level of training that we receive as police bikers, we go on a 4-week standard course, and then we go on another 3-week advanced course,
and then refreshed every 2 years.
Yeah, and we're riding at a high level regularly, so we are kept, our skill is maintained. But
I bet if I offered you a course tomorrow, anything, something biker training, I bet you'd bite my arm off, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Because that's your mentality, because you want to improve, you want to be better.
Yeah.
We're not sat here saying, oh, well, we're great riders and you're not riding as well as us. It's not about that. We've had training, and I mean, I've been riding bikes since I was 10, and I can absolutely categorically say that I've enjoyed my riding so much more in the last sort of 10 years since I've been an advanced rider than way before. Used to go out, I used to be fairly quick on the road, but I used to have these all shit moments where I'd get all nervous and I'd miss a line and I'd worry myself. We all get them, and then the rest of the ride, your adrenaline's up. Training gets rid of that, because it gets you to ride appropriately, the right speed. Like you say, it doesn't have to be slow.
It doesn't slow you down.
But it's better observation, better planning, and then riding within your capabilities and the road conditions.
Well, you've been yourself up to Devil's Bridge when you see a lot of bikers together and they've come in off a ride, and then they're all laughing and joking, saying, oh, did you see that car? That was close. And oh, did you see this? That was close. And you're thinking, that's only good luck rather than good management.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be getting off a bike and going, I'm glad I'm still here.
No.
You should be in control of what is happening and in control of your own safety, because you can't rely on other people to do it. So look out for yourself. That's the only person that's important to me.
And that's that, when we talked before about the 1/3 and the 2/3, that's that 2/3 chunk, isn't it, involving other vehicles. That's the defensive riding. That's you going out, looking, planning. I know it's sad, but looking at every vehicle thinking they're out to get me. Where can I be so I can see them early, I can move around them, let them sort themselves out, pass them if need be, but don't get involved in them. Protect yourself, make yourself a bubble of security around yourself.
Be like Switzerland, don't get involved.
Absolutely.
That's the way to be.
Political.
Oh, yeah. Are we allowed political?
No.
No.
So, yeah, and like I say, always back to training, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the only thing, to get that 73 times more likely to be killed on the roads in Lancashire, to get that number down individually for you, because you won't be 73 times, thankfully, and I hope I'm not, but it's only because of training.
Yeah.
Most people will pass their test, and if you're old like me, it's left round a block, that's it, here's your licence, thank you very much. Even if you more recently you have your CBT and stuff, it just teaches you, the same as a car, it just teaches you how to ride the vehicle and safely on the road. But to get, better experience and better safety, then there's nothing to beat it. So, and whatever, it doesn't matter. IAM, ROSPA, they both run.
Yeah, there's loads of private companies out there that
absolutely, advanced courses, whatever's tailored to yourself.
You'll find that the actual training will give you an increase in your skill level. So that's your physical control of the machine. So, like I say, that's where you'll get your positioning right, and which will then give you an increased view around corners and all that kind of stuff. That's a given. But hopefully when you do some intensive sort of advanced training, you start getting more into the mentality of advanced riding. And I remember being told on our course that advanced riding is 10% of your right hand and 90% up here thinking about what is, what might, what could,
absolutely,
predicting,
stuff,
anticipating, and it's that attitude that will change and improve once you've had the training. Because once you understand why we say do stuff, it just goes like bang. You go, well, it makes sense.
Yeah, just clicks, doesn't it?
Yeah. But until you give it a try, a chance or a go at doing it, you're missing out on so much that motorcycling has to offer.
And what's sad, I find frustrating, is that the people that need, the people that are the most at risk, some of them don't want to listen. They don't want to be trained, and they are generally it's males over 40 and under 70, so 40 to 60s, males who generally ride at weekends. So that's on a bell curve of collisions, they're the target group, which is funny because when I first thought that stat, I heard that stat, I thought it would be your race rep boys and girls on their R1s and Power Ranger outfits out there, but it's not. Generally, they don't get killed and seriously injured. Obviously, you get a lot of commuters, a lot of people on mopeds, stuff like that, but thankfully, because they're generally in 30s, the speeds are a lot lower, as you alluded to before, so the level of injury is lower. They might break a limb or something, but it's not going to be life-changing or life-threatening, which is what we're really trying to concentrate on. So that's your target group, really. So if you're, if you're in your 40s and to your 60s and you go out generally on a weekend and you're a male, then that is the target group. So maybe you should be thinking. Another thing's funny.
But we fall into that age category, and you know yourself that because you've been driving and riding for a long time, I suppose a degree of complacency comes in. You start thinking that I'm Billy Big Balls. I can ride my bike. I'm good.
That's it. Well, that's funny about bikes, isn't it? I always say that when we do the bike safe thing. You can speak to somebody and you could have a pop at their partner and make a bit of a joke about it, and they laugh it off, don't they? Yeah. God, you say that their riding's a bit dodgy. Yeah. What? Yeah.
It really.
Especially blokes, isn't it? They don't like it, do they? No. What's that about me? Because everyone thinks they're brilliant. Yeah. And until you break that down and think, well, I might be quite good, but why don't I go and get it checked? And that's what Bike Safe is. It's like an MOT, isn't it? That's what I always say. It's not a full training thing. That's what the IAM and the ROSPA and the full advanced packages are. It's just like an MOT. A quick check, give you some pointers, and then go out on a ride. We ride behind you. If there's anything to point out, there might be nothing, and that's great because you can go away going, yeah, I was doing it right.
I don't think I've ever met anyone that can't improve.
No, well, we all. That's what I said to you before. We'd all go on courses tomorrow if you offered us one, because it's that mindset of wanting to improve, and everyone can be better.
So if you think that I'm a fantastic rider and I can't learn anything, you're going to be one of the biggest problems.
So I mean, we're sat here with our yellows on. I mean, traditionally we'd be classed as traffic, wouldn't we? I mean, they have different names, don't they? And things evolve.
Fundamentally, we're here for road safety and dealing with collisions. And no matter how much training we offer and we try and promote, we will still end up going to serious and fatal injury collisions.
Yeah, and that's our role, isn't it? I mean, I'm in a serious collision unit, so we deal with all the serious and fatal, so life-changing injuries and fatal collisions. And you're in the collision investigation unit, so...
Yeah, so I'm in a slightly different role. I'll be looking at the physical aspects of the collision itself, whereas you have more of a dealing with a family. But we go to a scene and the road's closed for 4-5 hours whilst we conduct our investigation. Obviously that has a massive impact on everyone else that wants to use the road. How many times you've been stuck in traffic and you've heard on the radio that the road's been closed due to accident investigation work? That's one of the very, very minor byproducts of the collision. But the closer you get to the actual collision, there are people involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're all tragic. Every single one is tragic, of course it is. And every life, and just one life saved by this, by Bike Safe, by advanced training, by anything, then that is obviously
It's a win.
Absolute massive win. But when you go to the jobs that we go to, they are all individually tragic. But what's really frustrating, isn't it? We were talking before, is that they're all so preventable.
A lot of them are, aren't they?
very, very rarely. I mean, like we spoke about, if someone had a mechanical failure and their vehicle veered across the road and came in front of a motorcycle and hit them, then you know that's pretty out there. That's pretty unavoidable.
It's unavoidable.
But most are one of them fatal fives, either by the rider or the car user or vehicle, or one of the fatal three for the bike riders we've spoken about earlier. And that's what's so frustrating, is because it's absolutely senseless loss of life, especially sort of you know, young people out there. But that's our job, like you say. We've got to go and we've got to deal with the investigation first of all, the scene, the examination of the scene and the vehicles and everything, and then we have an investigation team that look into the actual causation.
But the impact on everyone involved is massive.
Yeah.
You've got officers that go to a scene, and if it's a particularly gruesome scene, there's welfare and there's counselling and the rest of it.
Massive welfare issues on officers dealing. I think probably don't think that, because just because you put a uniform on, it doesn't make you Superman or woman, does it? It doesn't make any difference, and that still gets in. You're still dealing with carnage and tragedy. We've got to go and speak to the families and let them know, and that's just, you know, the worst possible thing you could ever have to do. We've got specially trained family liaison officers, and they're absolutely fantastic. But we just don't want to involve them. I don't want to have to do that. So anything we can do to reduce that, because it absolutely destroys lives.
Yeah.
Not just clearly the person there involved, but if it's involving another vehicle, then that person's life is, whether they're to blame or not, is just irreversibly changed. The family, friends,
the family of that driver, it affects them as much as the family of the person that's died. You've got two separate families that will never be the same again following a collision, and it's, like I say, made more frustrating when it could be avoided. And you've got all the witnesses to it.
Yeah.
You're saying about we're not superhuman, but by dealing with it a lot of the time, you become a little more hardened to some of the sights that we see.
We couldn't do the job otherwise. You're there to do a job, aren't you?
Yeah.
If we were to get there and fall to pieces,
you're not helping.
Nothing could be done, and that's where we get our drive from, isn't it? You're there, and it's for the families, whether that's to get, you know, answers for them, or whether that's to get a prosecution and to get some justice that way. Whatever the motivation is, it's for the families, and that's why we've just got to be professional and switch on. But that's not to say that it doesn't. Something leaks in every job. Something gets through, and it's hard for everybody.
Well, how do you feel like if your family member witnessed something like this? How's that going to affect them? Like I say, just as a witness.
Yeah.
That's going to potentially impact on them massively, and so the emotional cost to a serious and fatal collision is massive.
So, you know,
if everyone does their bit, if you look out for yourself, you're halfway there.
Yeah. And as an individual, and that's it. We keep going around in circles, and that's it. As an individual, your responsibility on yourself and other people is training, isn't it?
Yeah.
Get yourself trained, improve your riding ability, your riding safety, look after yourself. Then whether you impart that on your friends and colleagues that you go out with or whatever.
Spread the love.
But absolutely, spread the love and keep everyone safe.
Like I said, there may not be many just car drivers watching this, because this is primarily for bikers, which is why we're at a bit of a butty shop. But the car drivers, they have a responsibility too, and don't for a second think that we're trying to blame and say it's all down to motorcyclists, you all need to do X, Y and Z just so that there isn't a fatal collision.
No.
We know careless driving is challenged, it's part of the fatal five, and car drivers using mobile phones, not
Absolutely.
using
Drink and drug driving.
Drink and drug driving, they're all big risks to motorcyclists,
Yeah.
because if they're doing any of those things, you're a potential
Yeah.
target.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, because you get bikers say that all the time, don't you?
Yeah,
Why are you
blaming
talking
us?
to us about this?
Yeah.
Why don't you speak to the car or the van or the vehicle drivers? The truth is, we do, and we have done for years, and we do
Yeah.
target them. And we're certainly not blaming the motorcyclists. What we're saying is you're inherently more vulnerable,
Yeah.
and so
We want you to protect
absolutely.
yourself.
You've got to do what you can for yourself. Leave us to try and deal with them, and we try to deal with it, don't we, with engagement rather than enforcement, especially with bikers,
Yeah.
because it just switches them on. If I stand here and say, you know, you should do this, 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 it just switches people off. So we try and engage with people and encourage them rather than just enforce all the time. But there is a time and a place when that needs to be done.
But if you could give us the opportunity to explain to you why stuff is done and why we do X, Y, and Z, and try and understand it, you'll be better.
Yeah, you
Um,
realise where it's coming from. It's coming from a position of improved safety and,
Yeah.
and to try and stop you getting killed and seriously injured. It's not about target the bikers or cars or whatever.
Yeah.
No enforcement is there for, despite what people think, for monetary gain or for a perverse pleasure we get for it. It's
No.
all to reduce.
Christmas party.
Christmas
Yes,
party.
All the
It's
fines
not-
go to our
absolutely.
Christmas party.
It's to
It's a
reduce.
cracking party every year, though.
It is though.
It
in
is
fairness.
good.
It's to reduce people getting killed and seriously injured, and that's all we want.
Yeah. Well, car drivers, as a motorcyclist, you can educate and help other car users yourself. Get them to check the mirrors regularly. By positioning your bike behind a car, if you stay in the same position, you are less visible than you would be if you're just moving about a bit within your lane. We're only talking side to side, slight movements.
Yeah,
But
so
that
that they
will
can see you.
provoke a car driver to check the mirrors, because it'll look like something's flashing in the mirrors, so they'll go, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
And then they'll see you. If a car driver can see you, they're less likely to do something that you're not expecting.
Yeah.
So, as a car driver, anyone that check the mirrors more often, it's safer for you.
Yeah, closeness to the vehicle behind, that's a real big one. When you go out
Yeah.
when you go out on bike safe and you're riding with people, or whether you just see people, you know, during your tour, you've got to keep that 2-second gap,
Yeah.
or greater. Bikes, by their own makeup, you know, the power to weight on them is so much higher than a car.
Yeah.
There's no need to be crawling all over behind it. Give yourself distance, back off, 2 seconds at least. Count it off as you pass something. Just count 1,000, 2,000. Get used to that, and that will become comfortable, won't it? And then when you start encroaching that, it'll become natural that will feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So give yourself 2 seconds. If it's wet, it's doubled, 4 seconds. That's what the highway code says, but it's absolutely right, because car drivers, they won't see you. If they have to nip on the brake or something, they've seen something that you haven't because you're right behind them, then
Yeah.
you've given yourself no room to move. So drop back, give yourself time, space, you get a better view. The further back you are, you get a better view, it opens out. Then you can get out, see it's clear,
Then
move
your
past.
overtake's
Absolutely, and you're gone, aren't
You've
you?
got that 2-second gap to plan your overtake and to find, right, I can see that there's going to be a bend coming up here, I can see around that bend, so I know that as soon as I get around that bend, I can use that and accelerate through and past it. So this 2-second rule, only a fool breaks a 2-second rule. It's not the doom and gloom mongering that you see on the telly about, oh, it's just about being sensible and having your 2 seconds between you.
It's absolutely for
It's
a
not.
purpose.
Use it to your advantage, so that with those 2 seconds you can plan your overtake, see your overtake, and then you get the snappy overtakes when they're on. We're not here to tell people to ride like Miss Daisy, you know.
No, well, we know bikers don't do that. The whole reason of riding bikes, isn't it, is that bit of freedom of the road.
Yeah.
There is
The
the acceleration,
power,
the power. Of
acceleration,
course it
yeah.
is. That's why people get it. I mean, we're all the same. We've got bikes at home.
Yeah.
That's what the thrill is and the interest. We know that. We want to celebrate that. We don't want to stop people doing it. We just want people to do it safely and have fun. And like I say,
But believe us when we tell you that you can have more fun,
much more fun when you're
safely
trained and you're
when you train. Yeah.
a higher, you know, because it's all those near miss moments that just ruin your ride. And we get that all the time. We speak to people all the time that just say, oh, we had a couple of
If you
near misses
don't
coming
learn
in.
from the near miss moments, you're going to have another one.
Well, that's it. You can't. When's your luck going to run out? It can't keep going forever.
No.
So give yourself a best chance, fighting chance. Happy days. We solved the world.
Absolutely. Boom.
So yeah, hopefully that's helpful for you guys and girls out there. If there's anything you want to ask us questions, or if you want us to do another one and to cover specific
What's your
stuff.
favourite colour?
Yeah, purple.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then absolutely we'd be happy to do some. Thank you. Happy to help.